Alrighty, what's up everyone? My name is Night Reacts and welcome back to the channel. As you guys step up the notes, today we are going to be doing a little bit of a different video. We are going to be doing a full-on in-depth review of Halsey's latest album, The Great Impersonator. So about a few days ago, I actually listened to this album and I had prepared a whole video. I already recorded my review and everything, but it was only like a 3-minute review and it kind of just lightly talked about it, little things, minor things that I liked about it, and that's really it. But then I saw Anthony Fantano do his review on this album and I really thought to myself, man, if he can get 400k views on a video where he talks like that, where he completely disregards everything that this album talks about and waters all the struggles that Halsey went and all the suffering that she went through in life, and was open enough to talk about it and really give us an emotional album like this and water it all down to giving main character syndrome, I'm gonna be for real, I think I can definitely one-up you on that one. So to everyone who enjoys this video, y'all can thank Anthony because he's the reason I'm doing this. But how I'm actually going to be doing this is I'm actually going to be going through each track. I am actually going to be reviewing every single track on the album, explaining all my research on these songs and what I think about them and what my ratings are. And then obviously by the end of this, I'm going to give my official rating on it. If you like this idea and you want to see more review videos like this where I actually go more in depth with the songs, let me know, because honestly I actually had a lot of fun. Other than that, if you're new to the channel, you'd like to see, please consider subscribing. It's for to help out the channel a lot. We're actually on the road to 10,000 subscribers. We're very close, we're only 800 away. But other than that, I don't want to drag this video on too long, so let's just get into this video. So right off the bat, we start off this album with more of an acoustic soundscape in the beginning of the track, where Halsey goes into how life is as someone who lives as a celebrity in LA, which from my understanding seems to be talking about how LA is the city of celebrities and how it affects the way people live life there in a way that can make it seem like they are almost dead and soulless, living their entire lives in the public eye and not truly being themselves. That seems to lead to the idea on how some of these people are okay with living life like this. Now this leads into some other lyrics such as, and if I ever try to leave my body behind, if I ever, well, at least I know it was never mine, it was never mine, it was never mine, it was never mine, which align with some of the central theme of this album, which is dissociation. Ashley is dissociated so much with Halsey and their image, it almost feels like their body is no longer their own. Now, including like the well-sung lyrics, the great details in the production, including laughter, which is something that happens pretty frequently throughout the album, displaying people not really taking her issues seriously and making fun of her when she does talk about them. Ironically, like a certain reviewer. Surprisingly though, this track ends up leading to a pretty explosive synth-based outro, which truly seals the deal on the track. So honestly, for an intro to the album, it's honestly great. Like, I think she did an absolutely amazing job with this intro, and it really kind of just sets everything in stone of what this whole album is going to be like, and kind of like the ideas that are going to be thrown around in this album. So yeah, altogether, I would 100% give that a massive W. Absolutely loved it. So Ego is pretty much like a play on like the early 90s and 2000s era of pop rock, similar to artists such as like Avril Lavigne, which for the most part is executed pretty great. From my research on the song, it seems to go over her constant struggles between her and her record label, constantly badgering her about how they want her to focus more on the monetary and popularity aspects of her career, to cater to create TikTok trendy songs and radio hits rather than to pursue her more artistic side that might not connect with the masses, but to her fans, and to the people who struggle with similar issues as her, which also leads to quite a few references to previous hit songs she has had in the past, such as Without Me, and some songs off her debut album Badlands. This song also touches on another issue she has struggled with in life, which is her bipolar disorder, that she was diagnosed with when she was a teenager. She talks about it in the chorus, how she feels like if she doesn't gain control of her thoughts and her body, that they might take over her and lead her into a worse situation that she's already in. Yeah, genuinely, I do love this track, and it's honestly a track that I've returned to a lot since it released back in, I think, September. Altogether, gonna have to give that a diamond. It's such a great track. It is such an enjoyable track, and it's definitely a track that I return to frequently, like I had just said.
'Cause my dog died last year, he fell asleep in my...
So this track is definitely one of the more darker tracks sonically and lyrically. One of the main topics she talks about is a poem she had started to write about her dog who had just passed away during the time, but had never completed it until now with this song, by also incorporating the idea of describing the overwhelming sadness of losing a beloved pet, while also instilling the concept of her kind of like begging to be let into heaven once she dies, knowing that she wasn't a perfect person and had done bad things. Yeah, it's a really interesting song, honestly, especially lyrically once you like really like dive deep into it. So yeah, if you haven't, I definitely recommend really digging deep into this track, because if I were to sit here and just really completely focus on this one song, it would take like 30 minutes. I'm not joking. But yeah, it's honestly a really interesting way to combine two concepts, both involving like the real death of a pet, also the death of yourself, hoping that you're gonna make it to heaven even though you've known you've sinned so much in your life. But yeah, I absolutely love this track, and I love the ideas that it displays, and I'm gonna give it a massive diamond. Just honestly a great track. So now we get to the first interlude slash transition point on the album that leads into the next era of the album story wise. So this song starts out sounding almost like you're listening to an old cassette recording that you found in your attic. I'm not joking, that's pretty much how it sounds. It's very muffled, very raw, and story wise this track for the most part talks about her growing up and the relationship between her parents, who had her at a very young age, and how they weren't always on the same page with each other, leading to almost constant arguments and fights. She also talks about in the second verse about being jealous of another boy who had leukemia and also had a so-called perfect life because his family pretty much gave him everything he ever wanted, always constantly gave him unconditional love and support, and just never fought. They were just a picture perfect family. And by the end of the track, she actually says the lyrics, "Please God, I want to be sick. I don't want to hurt, so get it over with quick. Please God, I want to be loved. I don't want to be somebody they want to get rid of." Altogether, the song talks about pretty much growing up in a toxic household that gets so bad that you reach the point where you're just praying that you get sick, so maybe it could convince your parents to give you the love and attention that you've always wanted in life, and if not, just to end your life soon. Honestly, it's a very heartbreaking track, and one that is really hard to listen to the more you understand the whole situation. So yeah, for that, gonna give that another diamond. Absolutely love the track, but I don't know if I would return to it solely because of how like just dark and heartbreaking it is. It's a little too much for me to really just sit down and listen to, you know? Now, Panic Attack is a lot more of a chill track, sonically, compared to the previous tracks, having more of like a contemporary indie folk soundscape. Now, outside of like the more tamer instrumentals, the lyrics themselves still show literally no sign of getting any less darker. Lyrically, from my understanding of this track, it talks a lot about Halsey's psychological stress and trauma, and how she's tried to deal with these things through self-harm, substance abuse, and this track also touches on topics such as carrying burdens throughout life, and how when you want to love someone, you might think you can help hold their burdens, when in reality, you can barely hold your own. And yeah, like I said, but altogether, I really do love the contrast between the more relaxed, almost old school Taylor Swift style instrumental and the darker, more grounded lyrics based on topics of trauma and burden. But yeah, altogether, another massive diamond. Just a great track. And honestly, this is a track, oddly enough though, I feel like I can return to sometimes. Like, I feel like it's one that I've had on my rotation a little bit more, you know, when I'm not really paying attention to the lyrics, I can stomach it, but I feel like once I really start paying attention to the lyric, it becomes a lot harder to listen to because of how dark it is.
So I ran into the clinic and I asked to see them.
Well, obviously not the end of the album, it might be the end of my joy, because man, does this album just keep getting darker. With this track, it goes full indie folk, being pretty much solely acoustic guitar, giving off a coming to the end type feel, no pun intended. And honestly, throughout all the track, lyrically, this is one of that almost had me tearing up due to just how sad it is. Like, I'm not joking, this one was really sad. But yeah, lyrically, while also touching on the subject of her struggles through mental illness, it also talks about the struggles her and her partner have when she does have like a very bad moment, on whether or not she wants them to stay or go away before that bad moment inevitably becomes worse, whether it be her having bipolar disorder, maybe she's having, you know, just a mental breakdown or an episode. It just, you know, she struggles with whether or not she wants her partner to stay with her and deal with that with her, or whether or not she just doesn't want them to deal with her, or just doesn't want to bring them down with her, you know. She also touches on the subject of lupus and cancer a little bit in the outro of the track, which is actually talked about a lot more near the end of the album, which we will get into. But yeah, another really hard listen for me, but also it's just like such a beautiful track. So for that, I'm gonna have to give it another diamond.
I try to teach him every day that nothing good is free, but always.
Alright, similar to the last track instrumentally, it's pretty tame, and it doesn't really go anywhere past that sonically. Like, it's just an acoustic track, it doesn't go anywhere, you know, which is kind of a letdown. But don't worry, I got positives. Story-wise, though, this entire track is dedicated to her son Ender, and was created specifically for him to listen to when he gets older. And it's pretty obvious that was the case. She starts sharing a bit of her childhood to her son, talking about topics of wanting her father's approval so bad that she was really willing to gang up on her mother with him, and almost completely ruined her relationship with her mother, and didn't actually realize it till it was almost too late. Then explained how she didn't want the same thing to happen to her and her son when he had gotten older, which completely understandable. Obviously, this is definitely one of the weaker tracks on the album. It's still a very heartfelt song, and I'm sure her son's gonna totally love this when he's older. And honestly, it's definitely a song I could see myself coming back to, so for that, I'm gonna give it a W.
I left home and moved to Brooklyn, where my boyfriend.
We're back with another interlude, and while the last one was in the style of like an old tape recording that you had found in your attic and just brushed off and listened to on an old like tape cassette player, this one is in the style of her actually singing like a live track on stage in front of like tons of fans cheering for her. This interlude slash transition talks mainly about her experiences leaving her parents' home at the age of 17. They had disowned her, and by kicking her out of their home, it actually led into struggling to live having a severe drug addiction and an abusive boyfriend. And surprisingly, she actually proceeds to call back to the previous interlude, referencing how she had thought those prayers she had asked God for to come true were delayed. But the chorus ends up being very similar to A Letter to God 1974, but instead of praying for something bad to happen, she had instead prayed for her life to actually get better and to be cured from all the negative things in her life. And yeah, so far I'm actually really enjoying these interludes. It's like a very cool way to actually do these interludes, because most interludes are kind of like either them talking or mainly just instrumental tracks, but I do like these kind of different ideas where each interlude is like a different style completely. Like one interlude's a tape recorder, or having this very like old found recording style aesthetic, and this one having more of an aesthetic of her being at a live concert while fans are cheering her name and she's singing the song and stuff. It's just a really cool concept, and it really helps direct where like this story of the album is going, and it helps explain a little bit of the situation she had growing up. Altogether, while it's not like a track that I'd probably return to frequently because of just the fact that it's more of like a live session style song, I'm gonna give it a W. I really enjoyed it. Okay, So this song, oddly enough, has a huge country style, possibly in reference to Dolly Parton, since she talked about her during her promos and even like mimicked the photo of her, saying that she was like a huge inspiration. But yeah, it does sound pretty damn solid, even though like I'm not even into that style of music. Like I'm not like a big country fan. I actually really liked it, and I thought she did a very good job on the instrumentals. But lyrically, this track is mainly about wanting to leave her old life behind and never wanting to return to her hometown due to the rough memories that reside there, obviously, and also touches a bit on the topic of reminiscing over a loved one who had passed. But yeah, out of all these tracks, this has been literally the most straightforward one. I'm not joking. Like, this one was very easy to understand. I'm gonna give it a high W. I really enjoyed it.
So now you can take the money, you can get on a plane to a
So this track honestly intrigued me with the choices of like this light use of vocoder throughout the track. Now it's not used a lot throughout it, but it's like it's there. You can hear it. Like if you really focus, you can hear it. And outside of that, it had like a nice 2000 style of like pop that reminded me like a little bit of like a modernized version of her old music. Now, I could be completely wrong because I haven't listened to her old music since I was like a little kid, so I don't know. Yeah, this track though talks a lot about her struggles with fully committing with someone and fully loving someone and giving them her whole heart, while struggling with like emotional pain, talking about no matter how much she tries to give a person or vice versa, it always just falls through. It does also convey a story of a girl, most likely a character representing Halsey. I think also throughout this whole album, you're actually being viewed from a perspective from a character named Ashley, which Halsey, who is also Ashley, is playing. So she's kind of like playing herself, but more of a like a Ashley that is from before, from like the 70s, and she's just becoming an artist and kind of living through life, but it's all through like metaphors and stuff. But yeah, she talks about a girl who had gotten into an accident leading to her death and the doctors having to break the news to their family. Now, I didn't go too deep into this one. I feel like I could definitely go a little more deeper into it, but I feel like I could probably, again, kind of like one of the previous tracks, it would probably take me like 10-20 minutes to really dissect the whole track. So this is just more of like listening to it a few times and then kind of coming up with my theories of the songs. Altogether, I do love the sound design of this track. Like I already said, I might need to dig a little bit deeper to figure out the meaning behind the actual story itself she's told throughout the track, because I do know that it's being told throughout, especially a lot of the interludes, which I didn't really realize until I've written this entire review. So I'm definitely gonna have to go back and really do a little bit more research. But yeah, altogether, massive W. Absolutely loved it.
What if I'm from outer space?
Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot what Darwinism was. I actually had to relook it up because it's not, you don't really hear it often, you know? Like, when the hell do you hear someone talking about Darwinism? You know, cut me some slack here, okay? But yeah, sonically, this track is very atmospheric, almost sounding like she's singing in an empty auditorium, and oddly enough gives off a little bit of like a Linkin Park and Evanescence vibe, having that like much more edgy and darker aesthetic. I don't know why, but it just gives me those vibes. But yeah, lyrically, this track mainly talks about her struggles with lupus and how it's affected her life since being diagnosed with it. And honestly, as someone whose mother has struggled with lupus pretty much my whole childhood, since I think I was about 3 years old, she was diagnosed with lupus. Yeah, growing up being like firsthand witnessing what it does to a person, it's just really bad. You know, it's really bad on how much it affects someone's life, and I feel like it's weird on how little it's talked about in society. Like, I feel like it's something that should be talked about more, because yeah, it might not be as common as something like cancer or diabetes and stuff like that, but like I feel like it's common enough and bad enough where it should be talked about more. I don't know, that's just me, but maybe it's just me getting a little too personal with it. But yeah, this track is very pretty, and honestly, I've actually returned to this track a lot, especially since it does have a little bit of sentiment to me, especially since it reminds me a lot of my mother. But yeah, altogether, I feel like I have to give this one a diamond. It's just an absolutely beautiful track. Okay, now next up we got Lonely as the Muse. I'm gonna be for real with you. This track was such a change from pretty much every track on this album thus far, going like full rock on this track. Like, I'm not joking. Lyrically, she talks a lot about her fame and how it's taken over a decade to get where she is, but also how it can like all come crashing down within seconds. And no matter how many records she breaks and how many plaques she received from her music, she just feels like a complete tool. You know, she feels like a complete tool that her record label's abusing to profit, and that once she like just doesn't sell hit records anymore, she runs the risk of being thrown away like a used tissue by her record label. It's a crazy song. Again, possibly another song that I might have to dig a little bit deeper in. Let me know if I did miss something in that song. Let me know if I've missed anything in these songs. Like, I did a little bit of research, but I didn't do too much. I wanted to keep most of these from just the stuff that I discovered, you know, just the stuff that I know while listening to it, you know. I've only did like a little bit of research on like names and stuff, but yeah, let me know if I'm missing anything with this track. But yeah, I will say so far this is by far my favorite track, and I don't know if it's like the popular choice because I looked on A2Y and it is the most highest rated song, so I don't know if it's the popular choice or not, but I don't really care because I adore the track. It's a song that I've returned to like 100 times already, so for that I gotta give it a 9. It's Lonely as the Muse. I mean, what can I say? So this track was a complete blindside. Honestly, have no clue why she decided to have like a heavy written poetry style song, but oddly enough, it worked amazingly. Like, this song went absolutely hard. At first, lyrically, I was like completely stumped on what this could have been talking about, but after doing a bit of research, yes, I will admit this was one of the songs I had to do a little bit of research on. After doing a little bit of research, I did find out this is actually about her abusive ex / baby daddy, Alev Aiden. I think that's how you say his name. But yeah, apparently Alev in Turkish means flame, and says Arsonist is a person who loves to use fire to burn things down, an obvious reference to Alev. Yeah, the song pretty much talks about the abuse her ex had put her through, and even how she had actual worries on whether or not these like cruel and abusive behaviors that Alev had would like genetically be passed down to her own son when he had become older. But yeah, altogether this track is absolutely amazing and so unique. Like, it's definitely like a standout on this album, and I do hope she does more songs in this style in the future because I do think she has a pretty cool eye for it, you know. Altogether, Massive Diamond is definitely probably my second favorite on this album, and might tie for first, honestly.
Several days now I've been living here too tired.
But yeah, it's time for another interlude / transition, and this one decided to go the path of sounding like a phone recording of a demo of a song that wasn't finished, even though it was technically finished. But this is all in like a good way, you know, especially in line with like the whole story of this album. So lyrically, just like the last track, it also talks about her ex Alev. My name's Alessio, so saying Alev should be easy for me. I don't know why I'm struggling to say it. But it talks about Alev and how he treated her when she needed him the most during her treatments for things such as lupus and another actually rare blood disorder she had. And I'm not gonna lie, this one actually really annoys me. And while she was going through those treatments, she had gotten the same effects as chemotherapy. And instead of her ex, you know, being there to care for her and, you know, being a loving boyfriend, he found her almost repulsing. I actually looked this up. She said it herself that he would find her almost repulsing. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how much of an a-hole you have to be to treat someone like that. It's crazy to me how you could treat a person like that. Like, it actually annoys me. But yeah, genuinely, the song is very well sung. It's very well written. But yeah, she was really going through it, man. Like, it's crazy and how much she was going through. Gotta give that a W, though. I absolutely love the track.
Come in with a frown and tell me sit your ass right down, or he might get
Okay, so it seems now that we're actually entering more of like the 2000 aesthetic with the production, having more of like a robotic slash modern sound to it, and it honestly works pretty well, to be honest, you know? Lyrically, this track covers a lot of previous subjects and previous topics, such as her abusive father, and how it feels like he's dead, even though he's not actually dead, but it feels like he is due to like the distance they've had since he actually disowned her. She goes into a little bit more detail also about her leukemia and how it had changed her physical appearance a lot, such as, you know, weight gain and stuff like that. Typical things that would happen when you get things like leukemia, have to go through chemotherapy, stuff like that. Then goes mainly back into the topic about her father, but then she goes right back into the topic of her father and how she always tried to build a relationship with him when she was younger, but it just never really happened and she never really achieved that goal. So yeah, this song is genuinely just incredibly sung, and honestly another track that I return to pretty frequently. It is another really depressing track though, so it's one that's definitely a harder listen for me though. I'm gonna give that one 100% diamond though. I'm sorry, I have never talked this much in a video. My throat is completely dry now.
'Cause I'm so lucky, I'm a star, but I cry.
Again, very similar to the last track, really going for like that 2000s aesthetic, which I do enjoy. Even though it is simple, I do enjoy a lot sonically, even though it's more on the simple side. Lyrically, it talks mainly about like how the media has affected her mentally with constant like made up stories they forged for clicks and views, over issues that in reality were no big deal or just didn't exist to begin with, you know, just were completely made up stories. It also touches a little bit on her ex again, referring to how he used to mainly use her for money and that she was too blinded by love to see the actual red flags all along. So let's get this straight. So 1, treated her like crap. 2, treated her like crap when she was at her lowest and found her repulsive. 3, used her for her money. This man needs to get punched in the face. That's all I can say. Yeah, again, a really simple song sonically, but lyrically it does pack a huge punch. And while this song probably won't hit for most people, it's gonna hit for a lot of people. Like, it's not gonna hit for most, but it will hit for a lot of people lyrically. So yeah, I'm gonna give that a massive W. Really enjoyed that one.
Please ground on whoever you are.
So now we are finally in the final interlude slash transition. Now this one's actually surprising, but it's actually just a normal song. I'm not joking. Like, this compared to the rest, like the rest all had these funky, cool aesthetics to them that made it more unique, but this one was actually just a normal song. But I will say it was an incredibly detailed song instrumentally. Like, it was so detailed. There were so many little sound effects and sound cues that just really gave this song life, which I absolutely love. But yeah, lyrically, this track is pretty much reflecting on the past letters to God and how now that she finally got what she wanted, which from what I can tell is her child, it seemed like God was playing a sick joke on her, a cruel sick joke on her, by actually making her sick like she asked for when she was a kid, but actually did it at the worst possible time when she's actually happy finally. But yeah, I honestly think that this might be my favorite out of all the letters to gods, and I genuinely think she did an amazing job on this track. If I remember correctly, I think she redid the chorus. I think she had the same chorus as the last ones, but more of like, instead of asking for her to be sick or not asking for her to be sick, it was more of like her screaming to God, like, why would you do this now? But yeah, altogether 100% diamond. Absolutely adored this track.
Surely it's forgotten.
Alright, but we are on the final track on the album, and it's the title track. Now normally I would be very nervous because title tracks can be a little bit iffy, but this actually left me pretty pleased. Now obviously it's not the best track on the album, but sonically this track felt like it was one of the most fantasy-like tracks on this album, really setting in stone that this was the finale to the album. So lyrically this track kind of seems like a mix between an overture while also talking about even though her life being consistent of nothing but hills, she still hopes that her legacy lives on after she's gone. That's pretty much what I completely got from this track. Now again, I could be wrong, I could have missed something else from this track. It wouldn't be surprising, but let me know if I did. But yeah, honestly, I do think that was a great way to end off the album, and while I wouldn't specifically go out of my way to listen to this track, I still thought it was great, and it's definitely a track that if I were to return to this album and just listen to it through, I would 100% not skip it because it is a really good track. But yeah, for that, I'm gonna give it a massive 9. Really enjoyed it. But yeah, that was it. That was my review on every single song on this album. All right. See, Anthony, that's how you do a review. But altogether, all right, this album was an absolute joy to listen to. When I first actually listened to this album, I gave it like an 84 out of 100, which is like an 8.4 out of 10. But after listening to it a few times and really actually diving deep in this album and really actually understanding this whole album and what it's like and the whole story surrounding it and stuff like that, I will say this album grew on me so much. Like, if it was like an 8.4 before, I'm gonna be fair with you, I'm gonna have to give this album a 9 now, because this album was absolutely amazing. Like, it was a phenomenal album, dude. Like, it was done so damn good. Like, from the unique concepts of different soundscapes to different genres of music, but not doing it in like just like a very, not like a typical experimental way where it's just all thrown together like that, but like having it kind of be sectioned off, and then having those interludes, which were the letter of God, and have those be kind of like the bridges from each era and from each section. I love that. I thought that was a great way to do it. Would I return to this album? 100%. Do I agree with Anthony Fantano? Not at all. I mean, if he doesn't like the album, that's fine. If he wants to give it a 1, that's fine. But it really felt like he didn't even bother. You know, it didn't even feel like he bothered listening to the album. I genuinely don't think he listened to the album more than like once. I don't think he went into it. I don't think he researched anything about the songs. I think he just heard what he heard and just kind of just went off that. Just went off on the minor things that he heard that he did understand. Because even like when I first listened to it, I didn't understand a single thing. Like, all I really understood was that the song sounded good and that's what I liked. But now that I actually really went into it and really like dug deep and found out what the story's about with each songs and really try to understand the meaning of each track and what the lyrics stand for, it actually opened up so much to me, you know, and it actually like completely changed this entire album for me, because now it's not even just like these are cool songs, it's a cool album with some sad lyrics. This is like her life. This is her life. This is her life in a single album, and her fully opening up to the masses, and you trying to water that down to say it's giving main character syndrome, which in my opinion is just lazy, because you can just make that argument with any album. I mean, you can make that with Brat by Charlie XCX, you can make that argument with Billie Eilish's new album, you can make it out with that album, you can make it out with the Coldplay album, you can make it out with any album you've given a 10 out of 10 to. Like, you can make that argument with anything. It's just a very lazy way to critique an album. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you guys agree with his opinion. Again, I don't care if you didn't like the album, didn't like the album, but that review was just full of hatred. Like, he went in fully hating. Like, he didn't even try to appreciate the art for what it was. Like, he just went in hating, didn't care. But yeah, let me know if I should do more videos like this, if I should do like more heavily like in-depth reviews of each track like this. I know maybe I could have went a little more in depth, I don't know, but like for the most part, this is the most in-depth I've ever done for a review. But yeah, let me know what other albums I should do. Let me know if I should do more of these. Let me know what I should react to in general. Let me know what I should review in general. Let me know if I should listen to other Halsey albums, because I didn't listen to our last album, which she released that, and now that I listen to this, I'm really interested in listening to that. Other than that, subscribe to the channel, turn on notification bell so you're notified every time I upload. Make sure you go check out my A2Y around here, relief rings, interviews, albums, EPs, songs I react to. Make sure you go check out my Discord server, and all my social media links in the description. I think I already said that, but still, just a little double reminder there. Other than that, hope you guys have an amazing day, night, evening, wherever you are. I'll see you all next time. Peace.